Like, I just was in pure shock because I was like, someone just listened to the Lord and gave me $5,000. I had $2 in my account. So the testimony is not even just that. It's the fact that I took it to my mom and I showed my mom the letter and the money, and my mom started to weep. I took it to the bank that night and I said to the bank teller, can I tell you a story? I'm like, this just happened to me. And she was a witness that there was $2 in my account, and the teller started to weep. So my name is Angela Thomas. I grew up in a Roman Catholic home where my parents, we just went to church on holidays, never really prayed together, didn't read the Bible. My mom is an immigrant from Scotland and my dad is an immigrant from Jamaica. Didn't get a lot of attention from my father growing up. I think it's a cultural thing. And so I was seeking after that attention from men for the longest time. And so even at a younger age, I was raped. I let down my guard in a moment. I had a friend who invited me over and her uncle was there. And I ended up, he gave me a brownie and I thought it was just a brownie, and clearly it wasn't just a brownie. But I ended up eating that and having one, which I was 16. I had never drank anything before. He gave me a drink, an alcoholic beverage. And I don't really remember much. But that time was hard for me. I ended up going home and trying to kill myself. I took a bunch of pills and they actually said to my family that if my dad would have waited 10 more minutes to wake me up because I asked to go lay down, that I wouldn't be alive right now. And I truly believe from that point, God was working in me. And even from that point, I feel like I started to pray to God. I started to just, even though I didn't know what that looked like, I would pray. I got married to my high school sweetheart back then I think my dad, that would be 21 years ago, actually now. And we had 3 kids together. We were married 9, together for 15 years, and then started having issues in our marriage. That is where I opened up to a friend, and she was a believer and went to Whitby Christian at the time, and invited me. That's just how it started. Very simple. Invited me to church that Sunday, said, I was crying to her in regards to what was going on in my marriage at the time, and just felt led to go that Sunday. Never had been to any other church other than my Catholic church that I would go to on holidays. So I went that Sunday with her, and really and truly, there's nothing special about it other than the fact that the Holy Spirit came on me at the church. At that time, had no idea what that was. But all I knew was I started weeping in the church. And so gave my life to Christ that first day, and never looked back. I was going to church, was still having difficulties with my husband, and was very lost. I didn't know how to be Christian. I mean, that's really what it was all about. It was such a big church that there wasn't a lot of people connecting with me when I first gave my life over to Christ. So I gave my life over to Christ in April, was going to church. My husband didn't want to join me. Things continued to get worse for us. And then in September of that same year, we separated. And things got very dark for me. I felt that I needed to fill the void of my husband with other men. When I was going through the time of sleeping with a bunch of men, because I was like looking for that, I married my high school sweetheart. So he was other than being raped, he was the only person I was with. And so I was like, oh, I need this, to make me feel better, and just having that comfort. But God had spoke to me about being pure and reading his word. Like, I heard him clear. And at that time, for me, hearing God's voice or hearing that I should be doing this, it was like, what is this? Like, at that time. But I remember, like, clear as day. I was in my my bedroom. If we were in an apartment, me and my daughters had an apartment together. And I remember being like feeling sick. And I remember a voice saying to me, oh, you need to kill yourself so you can go be with the Lord. And I would literally, for hours on end that night, I would cover my mouth and it would be like, I'm trying to suffocate myself. And then it was like something would pull my hand off. And it was like that pattern for like hours. I was like wrestling with like something being like, you need to kill yourself so you can be the, you know what I mean? And then I remember a hole like in my, and whether it was a dream, it felt real. A pit in my room of fire. And I was standing over it and I was screaming and I was looking down at fire and I was screaming. And then I remember, I don't remember anything after that. And then it was morning. And I'll never forget, I went to work that day and I shouldn't have because I was up all night wrestling. And the ladies, my spiritual mamas, came up to me and they're like, we were praying. One of them was like, I was praying for you last night. And I don't know what happened. And she's like, what's wrong with your face? And I wish I would have taken a picture, but my face was burnt. And so I never forget that because I believe I was in sin and and the enemy had me like in such a grip. But the Lord saved me and took me from the pit. And so jump back now to me separating from my husband and getting a divorce, was very lost. And it wasn't until I had powerful women of God come alongside me in my journey and change that for me. And that's why I believe wholeheartedly in discipleship. And that's why I run my women's ministry now, because I was a single mom. I didn't know what it was to be a believer, and the mentorship and the women that came alongside me changed the trajectory of my journey with Jesus. I was a manager in healthcare. That was what I did for a living. And I wasn't happy necessarily in my role as a manager. And so when my dad passed away in 2017, I just started looking at life differently. Again, was still on my journey with Christ, still somewhat a new believer, and decided and felt that I heard the Lord say that I needed to step out and I needed to go to Bible college, which was huge for me because, again, I'm a single mom of 3 daughters and had no idea how this was going to work. But I took the leap. I just was like, I'm going to do this, not caring about the unknown. I'm not having any fear of the unknown because I knew God was going to take care of me. And that's how I said it to people. And so I resigned from my position as a manager in healthcare and I went to master's college and seminary. I took the 3-year program. In the first year, I just feel that I need to share this. So in the first year, I really struggled with whether I should be there. And it was like, I switched my course. So in the first semester, I was like, I can't do this. Is literally what I was like, but I knew God was like, do the 3-year program. And I just was like, how am I going to do this? Because I was living off OSAP at the time, single mom, 3 kids, didn't know how I was even going to get to the end of the full year. We were going on a missions trip on the second, so coming back, going into the second semester. And I had put into the dean that I want to switch my course from the 3-year to the 1-year course. And he ended up calling me into his office. When we came back to the second semester, we were about to leave on a mission trip to Dominican Republic for 10 days. And at this time, I hadn't got my OSAP yet. I was wondering what was going on. And he notified me at that time that I was no longer getting OSAP and I had to pay them back $4,000 because I switched from the 3-year to the 1-year program. So in that time, went through like 5 different emotions of like, what am I going to do? I had no money at the time. And I had people just come alongside me in prayer. And I even said to my mom, because again, my family's not believers. A lot of my friends are not believers. My mom believes in God, but doesn't have that intimate relationship with the Lord. And so I called her and I was like, Mom, this is what's going on. And she freaked out. She's like, I told you, you shouldn't do this. I'm like, Mom, God's going to take care of it. So the next day, I went home. The next day I went to school, and I remember it in one of my classes, in the afternoon class, I went, and I usually sit in the same spot, and there was an envelope on my seat, and it said my name, and it said open up after class. And I remember going after class and taking the envelope like downstairs somewhere and opened it up and just seeing, it was like a letter, but it was like, I just seen money flashed, and I quickly closed it and started crying. And then I had some of my other classmates come alongside me. I was a mature student at the time, so a lot of them are younger, but they were like, what's going on? And I'm like, this just happened. And I'm like, you guys need to help me, like open it. And I got them to open it and read it. And it literally was a note that just said, this is not alone. It's pure just blessings of the Lord, a blessing from the Lord for you, and with no name on it. So to this day, I don't know who it was from. And my classmates and I counted the money, and it was $5,000 in $100 bills. And so in that moment, it was like, wow, someone, like, I just was in pure shock, because I was like, someone just listened to the Lord and gave me $5,000. I had $2 in my account. So the testimony is not even just that. It's the fact that I took it to my mom, and I showed my mom the letter and the money, and my mom started to weep. I took it to the bank that night, and I said to the bank teller, can I tell you a story? I'm like, this just happened to me. And she was a witness that there was $2 in my account. And the teller started to weep, because she was like, you always hear about these things happening, but you never actually get to see them. And then she started calling all these other tellers for me to tell the other tellers. And so it was just a testimony to God's goodness for me in that moment also, because being a single mom, thinking that I'm not going to get, like, at times we doubt, right? The Lord, we're doing this, and is it what I'm supposed to do? And I actually realized in that moment that I was supposed to be in the 3-year program. And so I switched back after all of that. I switched back into the 3-year program, got the OSAP funding, but then also that $5,000, because, and I forgot to say this at the beginning, but I wasn't sure how I was going to get to the end of paying my bills by the end of school year, like April. I wasn't sure. I didn't have enough for OSAP. I calculated everything, and I was like, I just kept saying God's going to provide. And so I got the funds that I needed to pay my tuition, but then the $5,000 got me right until April. And then in April is when I met my now husband, and it was definitely God. It went very quickly. We got married within 5 months. But he came and he just took care of me during that time as well, like made sure everything was good with me and my children. And I wholeheartedly believe that he was from a gift from God to me. In saying that, we have been through the fire. Knowing that we separated and got back together 3 times. And I believe the enemy was really trying to divide and conquer us, like in the sense of the division. And I believe actually that the enemy is out to divide marriages, and it is happening right now, because many believers and Christians are getting divorces. And every single time we would come back together, it was God speaking. And the thing is when you look at, I just want to say this, because when you look at the book of Genesis, when Eve ate the apple, God spoke to Adam. God spoke to Adam and said, I can't even remember the exact words, but it was like, why did you eat that? And he spoke to him. And it's funny that in my marriage, every time we separated, and when we came back together, is God was speaking to my husband, whether it was through revelation, whether it was through a dream. And I knew that it was hands down 100% from the Lord, because I hadn't told anybody, and he knew things that only God would know, and gave us revelation into why we still needed to be together. I went on a 3-day fast, and I was just sitting with the Lord in my time of prayer. And God spoke to me and he said, I want you to start a women's ministry. I already knew that I was called to women because I was a single mom and the things that I had been through. I knew my story needed to be told to women and to be able to relate to them, because a lot of women, I believe, because I know for myself and for what I've heard, that women are living in guilt and shame of what they've been through, what they're going through, and they carry that with them. And that's not how God wants us to live our lives. And so I believe wholeheartedly in breaking those chains of guilt and shame in women. And it comes from women coming alongside each other and actually relating and talking about it, and building each other up, and just that mentorship piece. And so when I was in my fast, he spoke to me loud and clear and said, I want you to start a women's ministry and call it Checkpoint. And at that time, when I was sitting with the Lord, I was like, Checkpoint? Like, that sounds so... And then because I'm a runner, and this is how God speaks to me at times, he gave me an analogy, and he said, no, it's like you're on a marathon and you're going through your checkpoints on that marathon. And when you go through the checkpoints, you stop to get a drink, to get refreshed, to keep going, to finish the race. And so he's like, that's what I want your ministry to be for women. I want it to be a checkpoint on their journey of life. It's not a church. It's a checkpoint on the journey of life, whatever they're needing in that season, in their marathon of life. You're going to be the checkpoint. And you're going to give them a drink of the living water of me, my love, whether they're needing rest or restoration or refreshment in the season that they're in. And that's how he spoke to me in regards to my women's ministry. I think a lot of the times we go through struggles. And for me, it was my marriage, and just going in and out from my marriage and being separated so many times. I just thought the struggle was real. And I just thought that I wasn't worthy of being able to be even a speaker, because I was like, oh, I'm going through this. But the encouragement is that God uses us in our struggles, and in a powerful way, because for those reasons that other people, like I said, especially women, when you relate, it changes things. You impact them, and you even just telling them what God has brought you through, and the testimony of that breaks chains. And I did have to be delivered from some things when actually, even I would say probably 2 years ago, it was my husband, which is crazy in itself, who actually delivered me from a lot of things from my past that I carried from generations, witchcraft and Ouija and all of those things, even like and see, people don't realize when you have sexual partners, the attachment of those sexual partners to you is very important to understand, that there is that. There's that soul tie. There's that piece where there is that connection. And so delivered from a lot of that, a lot of soul ties. And so, yeah, God is still transforming me even now to reflect him more. Still going through it. Like I said, with me and my husband separating so many times, I learned so much about myself and so many things that I was still holding on to and trying to control. And for me, control is a big thing because of the things that I've been through and the traumas that I've had with and other things with men in my past, where I try to control the situation, where even to now, I try to control my life still. And God is like, let me do it for you. But I am so thankful that I can be a new version of myself every day I wake up, and my God's mercies are afresh every day. And that is something that I hold on to because I believe I'm ever changing, and God is transforming me to the woman of God He really wants me to be. But I am a new creation, and His love. That is for me, and trying to get my children even now to realize the love of Christ, how pivotal it is, and not seeking after the love of man, and it being that the love that you get from Jesus is way better than any other love that someone else can give you, and really truly understanding that, and also learning to love myself. I think how I've come through that in the sense of the love of Christ, but also learning to love myself and realizing that if I just put God at the center and He's my everything, I truly learn how to love myself unconditionally, which helps me love others unconditionally. I believe getting married was a blessing, but I believe that I came with a lot of baggage, and it didn't necessarily solve all of my deep roots that I had. And it was the same with my husband. We were both broken people coming together, and that time, it was like 5 years. It's now, we're going on our 6-year anniversary. Yay. But during the I would say 5 years, because now it's been a bit since we've reconciled, but I went through the hardest time of my life. And there was literally 3 times where I wanted to commit suicide because of that feeling of, I can't even describe the darkness that I was in regards to when things aren't working within your marriage, or things aren't working within your life, and how that can take you to a deep, dark place. And being able to continue to, and I think it took a lot of nights of screaming. And I'm just being honest, like crying out to the Lord on my knees and being like, God, you have to do something. You have to change this. And it always brings me back to 2 Samuel 22. It's such a powerful scripture where it says, cry out to the Lord. It's the song of Samuel, but I think it's him crying out to the Lord, and the Lord coming down and scattering his enemies. And I feel wholeheartedly like that's what God did during those times for me. And I think the key is just learning His word, reading it, and praying and seeking after Him, and soaking. Like soaking is one thing that many people don't even know about, in the sense of soaking in His presence and allowing and being still and allowing Him to speak. Like giving that silence. But a lot of times we sit in silence and we get uncomfortable and we get up. But it's like being able to soak, and it was my spiritual moms who taught me how to do that. So yeah, I've come a long way. And like I said, I'm madly in love with Jesus, and I make that known. And people know me for that. Like I'm in places and spaces where I'm not with Christians, because my family, my friends, and I'll be the one where they call out to pray, or to, they just know. And I have come to a place where I'm set apart, and that's okay. Jesus is my everything. Jesus is literally my everything. Whenever I need, whatever time I'm in, whatever struggle I'm in, the fire that I'm in, the valley that I'm in, it all depends. He's my redeemer. He's my rock. He's my salvation, my refuge. He's my daddy. He's my everything. He's my husband. When I was going through those struggles, he's so good. And He's just everything to me. Whatever season I'm in, that's what He is in that moment. My comfort, my help, everything.